Now, our next speaker, just before we'll begin with the pitch competition, I think I can call you a new friend, or I hope so. She's an engineer, an astronaut who flown twice to the International Space Station and actually helped build it. Later on, she became the chief astronaut of the Canadian Space Agency and the Governor General of Canada. We are so happy to have her here with us in Israel for the Space Week. Julie Payette, welcome to the stage. Okay.
Shalom. Hello, everybody. Bonjour. I am here representing the Association of Space Explorer, which was the slide before I got on stage. So I'm not here because of worth. I'm here because my colleagues that are in the room, kind of said, you go and do. I'd like to change a little bit the way we think about going to space, because one of the things we'd like to do right now, in a few minutes, is to look through at what human space flight is about, what we've accomplished so far, and what we'd like to accomplish in the future. But one of the things about the Association of Space Explorer, it is an association of astronauts from all over the world. And the only criteria to be a member of the association is to have done one orbit of the Earth in a spacecraft. And the people that are with me here today all are members of this association. We are a apolitical, peaceful, collaborative association, and we think that collaboration is key for the future. So let's first look at where we've been. We started with the first launch of a satellite in 1957, but it didn't take very long for that satellite to be replaced with living, breathing creatures on board the satellite. In 1957, the first ever creature to go to space was a dog. Her name, and can I say her name, was Laika. She was the first pioneer in space, followed by other creatures that help us understand if humans could live in microgravity. And then there were heroes, the first few that dare to go on the top of a rocket to fly in space. It was Yuri Gagarin in '61, followed by Valentina Tereshkova as the first woman to go to space. But then we had also American astronauts, Alan Shepard, Gus Grissom, and then John Glenn, who was a member of our association because he had done one full orbit of the Earth in a spacecraft. I continue fast because we then entered an incredible era of advance in technology that inspired young people all over the planet, not just in America. And all culminated with Neil Armstrong standing on the moon on the 20th of July, 1969. And then 5 more missions of people walking on the moon and bringing back some rocks and science that we could study. They took this picture. So if you thought that the Earth is flat, well, I'm sorry, it isn't. They took this picture first time that we were seeing our world, our planet, from this far. But then we changed gear again, and we decided that we'd like to have space station in orbit, in lower Earth orbit of the Earth. So we started building space station. We had Skylab from the American side. We had Salyut 127 on the Soviet side. And we had Mir, an extraordinary space station, who outgrew completely the amount of time for which it was designed. It was deorbited in an incredible fashion. In 2001, I'm sure you remember. And then we thought, oh, can we dock big vehicles to space stations? And we did. And that was also opening another era of space collaboration, because we had a whole phase in which we docked the American space shuttle to the Mir space station and having collaboration between the two. Of course, throughout all this, and I'm going fast, there were a number of mishap, difficult times, hurdles challenge, and huge accidents. Accidents in which we lost people, colleagues, friends, who gave their lives so that we would continue to advance science and that we would continue to explore space as a species. And it all culminated in the construction that began in 1998 with the launch of the first module, Zarya, which means dawn, of the International Space Station. And I am so proud to let you know, if you don't know already, that just last November, we hit an enormous milestone. We hit 25 years of continuous presence of human beings in space on board the International Space Station. This means that every day since the first crew arrived the 1st of November 2000. Since then, there's been people on board the space station every single day. There are people right now. Here they are. This is Chris Williams and Sergei Kursverchkov and Sergei Mikhailiev. They're on board space station right now. And we've had people from 41 different nations, many of them are here tonight, that have been working on board without major mishap and getting along despite whatever happened on the planet, and we still do. This crew came aboard a Soyuz spacecraft and a Soyuz rocket. Soon we're going to get a compliment for that crew. It's called Crew 12. They'll come in. We have American Commander Jessica Meyer, Jack Hathaway, Sophie Adenau de France, and Andrei Fedyaev from Russia that will go up and join. Usually our crew complement is 2 spacecraft and 7 people on board, and they will come with a SpaceX Dragon capsule with 4 seats in there. Oh, by the way, if you'd like to see the station, if you've never seen it, it's passing by right now over Israel. And in 2 days from now, on the 29th of January, there's really a nice pass. So just remember this number, 1822, 6 o'clock, 6:22 p.m. You look at the horizon, northwest. So you just look at the horizon and you wait. And there, at 6:22, you will see a star move, a big, bright star, brighter than Venus at dusk. If you see a star that moves, it's not a UFO. It is the space station. It will culminate at about 50 degrees, which is almost halfway to zenith, and you will see it. It'll pass by. So please, if you've never seen it, and if the weather permits, and here in Israel it always does, then do go see it and say hi to the 3 people that we have on board. I continue. We've moved on already, even though space station ISS has been in space for more than now 27 years, if we count the first module. We now have an opening into the commercial space. We have companies that are working towards sending vehicle up there. We have companies offering suborbital flights that will be more and more accessible for people to be able to see the curvature of the Earth from above, its small atmosphere and its absolute beauty. But we have plans. And the next plan is going to unfold in a few weeks from now, when the first launch window opens. Because in the next few weeks, we already have a rocket on the pad. The SLS, Artemis II mission, is going to send a crew of 4 people to the moon for the first time since 1972. 3 Americans, Victor Glover, Reed Reisman, the commander, and I don't remember, Krista Koch, thank you so much, and Canadian, I better remember him, and Canadian Jeremy Hansen. And they will be able to do what the Apollo astronauts from Apollo 17 did, to take a picture of our planet from the moon. In their spacecraft, they'll be in orbit. This is the furthest we've ever been. This is the furthest tourist picture we've ever taken. We've never been anywhere else as humans. Of course, we've explored our solar system. We've sent spacecraft everywhere. We've even sent spacecraft to land on the planets where you could, like Venus and Mars. And we've even flown a helicopter for extraterrestrial flight outside the Earth on the planet Mars. That's ingenuity right there. We have also explored the giant planets. We've even sent a spacecraft all the way to Pluto, but then we demoted it from a planet that it was to a protoplanet, so it's no longer part officially of the solar system. But then in the meantime, we found other planets, lots of them. These are exoplanets. This is just an artist's rendition. Exoplanets are planets that turn around a star that is not our sun. They turn around stars. And now we're finding them every day. Every day that number increases. At the moment, as of 15th of January, 6,080 exoplanets, meaning planets that we can tell are orbiting around other stars than ours, which means that probably most stars have planetary system. We've gone so far into our planetary exploration in the last few decades. We've mapped black holes with telescopes from all over the world. We've sent spacecraft that today are in intersideral space beyond the effect of the solar winds of our sun. They're on their way somewhere in the vacuum and emptiness of space. And of course, we have telescopes and space telescopes that give us beautiful images and get us to understand who we are and what we belong to. But when it comes to human space exploration, we have not even met the vision of Stanley Kubrick from 1968. We haven't been that far, but we have plans. We want to go one day outside the atmosphere of the Earth on airplanes that will make our travel on Earth much smaller, so that we can go from Tokyo to New York in 2 hours instead of 12. We'd like one day, and this is coming, and tomorrow at the Ilan Ramon conference, we'll talk about that in detail. We'd like to have more than one space station, and not just science laboratory in space, but places where people can go and spend time in orbit of the Earth. We are returning to the moon with the idea that we will land on the moon again, and that perhaps we will install a colony, or certainly a settlement, of people working there, and the people will go back and forth working there. And of course, our goal one day is to send someone there to the planet Mars. And no, it's not going to be Matt Damon, and he's not going to be alone, but that person is going to be the first person representing the human beings on another planet than Earth. To do that, we have so many challenges ahead. And that's why we like this pitch that is happening tonight, because you will tell us some of the solutions that we need to be better at what we do in low Earth orbit and in space, but also to maybe one day help propel humans further away than they've ever been. And those challenges are so complicated that I'd like actually to ask my colleagues to join me on stage, please. My fellow astronauts, please. Thank you. And then I will let them, because they're much better than me and better experts, to let you know about some of the challenges I've put in. So we have another mic. Please just tell who you are if you're answering, and they don't know this. They haven't been really briefed on this. So have fun, guys. Yes, madame. So first challenge that we have is to get anywhere. So who would like to talk about the problems that we might face with propulsion?
All right, so astronaut Randy Bresnik from NASA. Why is this going to be a challenge? Well, this is the SLS rocket taking the astronauts to the moon. Single launch, and all of this gets astronauts to the lunar space. But we've got these big solid rocket boosters over here putting about 3.5 million pounds of thrust out each. But after about 2 minutes and 20 seconds, they're expended. They come off the vehicle, they head down to Earth, and they're never used again. We throw them away. All right, well, the 4 RS-25s down here putting all 600,000 pounds of thrust out, and they're taking liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen from this external tank. But after about 8 minutes, we hit main engine cutoff. The vehicle comes off with its second stage, and this gets thrown away. Not very efficient. Most expensive part of the rocket. Now, while there's a lot of companies, SpaceX, Blue Origin now as well, that are taking that first stage and returning them back to Earth, if you want to go farther than the moon, like Mars, chemical propulsion is going to be difficult. It's going to be a long time because we get stuff to space and then we burn these rockets and they're out of fuel and they coast all the way to Mars. That's why it takes so long. And so then when we get there, then a second engine then slows the vehicle down to get captured by moon's gravity, and then we can go to the Martian surface. And so we need a technology that allows us to have engines that don't just burn out in 8 minutes or 10 minutes once we get to space and coast the whole way. We need engines that can fire the whole time. And so that's why you hear discussions about nuclear electric propulsion, nuclear thermal propulsion, where you can fire the engine the whole time. And the thrust may not be as much, but if you're burning it for weeks and months at a time, you get going pretty fast by the time you get halfway there. And then as soon as you get about halfway there, then you turn your rocket around and you fire the thing the whole time to slow you down to then get captured in the Martian gravity field. And so that's the type of technology that we need to look at. Certainly Star Trek technology, Star Wars technology we'd love to get to, but we got to get past just using chemical rockets pretty soon.
Thank you, Randy. Mike, once we get there and we slow down, if we manage to, then can we land on Mars easily?
First of all, my name is Michael Lopez Alegría. I'm the chief astronaut at Axiom Space, Yerevtov. Nice to be here with you. The problem with landing on Mars is that it doesn't have much atmosphere. So there are a couple different ways that we come back to Earth. Most of them involve a parachute. Turns out a parachute's not terribly effective when there isn't very much atmosphere. And so we had some pretty crazy ideas of how we've gotten the rovers and other vehicles to Mars to land. In fact, you may have heard that one of them was called the 7 minutes of terror, when all these miracles had to occur in order to have basically a propulsive landing to get the vehicle back down to the Martian surface. Now, I think the bigger problem, as Randy pointed out, is not what to do when we get to the Martian atmosphere, because we've done that. We know that we can do it. We have still some tweaks to do maybe, but the bigger thing is how do we get the propulsion to reduce the trip time from what it is today, 6 to 8 months at least to get there, and about the same to get back, plus however much time you want to spend on the surface, which based on how the planets line up, you can spend either 2 weeks or 6 months at minimum. So it doesn't make much sense to spend 8 months to get there, 8 months to get back, and only spend 2 weeks there. So the bigger problem, I think, is how we're going to get this probably nuclear propulsion to get us there in instead of 6 to 8 months, maybe a handful of weeks.
Thank you, which makes us think that once we get there, then we have to live there, and there's absolutely nothing. Who would like to take the habitat issue? Garrett.
No, I'm supposed to do radiation.
Oh, well, you can.
Oh, you're trying to pretend that this wasn't set up.
It was not.
I wasn't going to do Martian landing, I can tell you that.
Well, maybe I can combine both, maybe.
Well,
Okay.
you get habitat, but then yes, I look at you, young lady, and you will have to tell us that, we have to entertain ourselves for those months where we're going to be on Mars. Garrett, go first.
Okay. So I'm Garrett Reisman. I was the first Jewish crew member on the International Space Station. Woo-hoo! Ah! Say it to the home crowd. Yes. Thank you. So habitat, well, yeah, once we get to Mars, we're going to need a place that can provide a pressurized atmosphere that we can live in, and also protect us from radiation. So the biggest risk to human health once we venture beyond low Earth orbit is radiation. When we go up to the International Space Station, we're above the atmosphere, but we're still below the Earth's magnetic field, which gives us most of our protection from radiation down here on Earth. We take a little bit more radiation at the ISS, on the order of like a CT scan or two. And really, for the most part, it's not that threatening. There's some studies, I think, that I've heard that say it may cause some premature hair loss, but Andre assures me that this is not true. But when we go beyond low Earth orbit, then we have to first go through the trapped radiation of the Van Allen belts, and then we'll be subjected also to galactic cosmic radiation, and also solar SPE, solar proton or solar particle events, including coronal mass ejections. And these things can be really nasty, really, really harmful to humans. We know exactly what kind of radiation is out there. We've sent instrumentation on all the probes we've sent out there, and we know exactly the flux densities. We know the distribution of ions in galactic cosmic radiation. So we know precisely what kind of radiation to expect. We even know probabilistically what to expect for the solar radiation, which is less predictable. But what we don't know at all is what that particular radiation does to the human body. So that is something that we have yet to figure out. So we have models, and we have some terrestrial data but it's mostly from high dose, low time duration exposures, not low dose, long time duration exposures. So it's apples and oranges. So the bottom line is we just don't know exactly how dangerous this is. We predict that if we do that 1.4 year-long trip to and from Mars using the best chemical propulsion that we have today, that we'll take about a sievert of radiation. And right now, that busts our lifetime limit. All of us that flew at NASA were limited to less than that based on projections of probable occurrence of fatality due to the marginal increase in risk of 4 to 5%. And 1 sievert will be more than that. So we have some work to do. We could, in our habitat, cover it with regolith. About 3 meters will do it. But then we have to live underground the whole time. And other than that, we really, the only way to find out exactly how risky this is to go.
Indeed. So say we get there. We make it there, and we're still alive. So is there a human factor about the habitat that we need to think about? Or is that okay if it's just very pristine underneath the ground, no windows, no communication with Earth? What should we think about to make it a real human habitat?
Hi, I'm Cyan Proctor. I'm a geoscientist and an artist, and I went to space with Inspiration 4, and I actually got to paint in space. I went as an artist and a poet. And so when we think about going to Mars, one of the big things is the psychological factors and thinking about how do we not just survive there, but actually thrive there, and what do you need in a form of like things like crew cohesion so that you don't want to kill your crew members after you're living there for a while. And I lived in a Mars simulation for 4 months, and I can tell you, we were ready to kick one of our crew members out because of some of the psychological things going on there. But art, music, ways of entertaining, sports, all of those things that keep us healthy and happy here, along with food and stuff like that, are things that we're going to need there. And figuring out how to deal with the psychology of being so far away from home. When we're on the moon, we can see Earth, and sure, we'll be able to see Earth, but it'll be tiny. And that's going to have a psychological impact that we just don't really know what that will be yet. And that's a big problem.
Thank you. And during the voyage, we're not going to see very much. But once we get there also, we'll have to have brought stuff with us. So let's say how we're going to think about this, because it's already complicated on the International Space Station. Mark, why don't you tell us about how complicated it is to bring stuff up, bring stuff down, organized. This is, by the way, is a picture of waste management on board the International Space Station. This is trash in the old food containers, because we'll get to food in a minute. Yeah, the other picture I'll let you explain, Mike.
Okay, well, first of all, Mark Pathy. I was a mission specialist on the AX-1 mission, which was the first fully commercial mission to the ISS. in April of 2022. And certainly, we were very limited in what we were allowed to bring up in terms of personal effects. We had a small pouch that could weigh no more than 1.5 kilograms. And certainly in terms of planning our research and payloads, we have to be very mindful of the weight and the cost of bringing various items up there. On the ISS, I think it was pretty incredible to me what a sort of circular system it was in terms of recycling things like water. There was an expression that I learned training to go up on the ISS, that the coffee you drink today is the coffee you drink tomorrow. And the ISS,
Which ends up in those canisters, sort of, right?
And the ISS, although, as Julie mentioned earlier, has been fully operational for over 25 years now, does a pretty incredible job of recycling the sweat that people exude, that even the moisture from people's breath is recycled into reusable water. But certainly bringing things up to the station is an issue, bringing things down. I think that one of the challenges in terms of any long duration mission that's constantly moving away from the Earth is that we don't have the same capacity for resupply that we do in a station that's circling the Earth, and that can be that we can send rockets up to with additional supplies and food and whatever else. So it is definitely a major challenge for anything that's moving further away from the Earth.
Absolutely. Resupply is key. If we forgot anything, we can't go back and get it. Which gets us, though, to another of the challenges that come is, what does it do? And one of the reasons we have the International Space Station is to study all this. But we still have so many questions. It does affect our body, doesn't it?
Yes, we don't belong there. My name is André Kuipers. I'm an astronaut for the European Space Agency. I went twice to the International Space Station, and that's a place where we don't belong. We are made for 1 gravity, 1 g, 1 atmospheric pressure, 5 kilometers per hour on the ground. If we go at sea, people already get seasick, and say 25 degrees Celsius. That's what we're made for. So we don't belong in space. So what happens? Your body has to adapt. So we get problems. If you get weightless, you get a fluid shift. So a lot of the fluid in the lower part of the body goes to the upper part. So you feel like having a cold. The first days are not so nice in space. A lot of astronauts get motion sick, like seasickness or car sickness. Goes away after a few days, but the first idea is you get back pain because, like we're sitting here and standing here, we're pushed down by our own weight, and between our vertebrae there is this elastic discs. They are elastic. So if there's no more pressure on it, they expand, and astronauts get taller. It gives you a strange feeling in your back. So the first days, you already have to adapt. But then in the long run, if you're weightless, you don't have to walk, you don't have to stand. It's like lying in your bed for, say, half a year or even a year. That means that your body reacts to that. You don't use your muscles, so you get muscle loss. You don't use your bones, and bone is living tissue. So you get less bone density. And then you have a problem that might be an issue for your health. It might be adding to the risk of kidney stones, for example. So because of all these things, the fluid shift, the bone loss, the muscle loss, we have to do a lot of exercise on board. 2 hours per day is dedicated for exercise, to run on a treadmill. Of course, you have to be fixed, otherwise you float away after one
It's
step.
right behind you. Sonny's doing the treadmill.
Yes,
and
oh yeah,
Mike
we
is
can
on
see it
there.
here on the treadmill or on the bike for physical condition. Also, your heart muscle is decreasing, so you really have to do something about it. And this is only in a situation that people stay healthy. You also can have, of course, medical issues. We recently had a situation in the International Space Station. So you have to be prepared. You cannot just easily go back to Earth. We have a small hospital on board of a space station with an ultrasound machine. We can do the ECG. I learned how to pull a tooth. We have medication on board. So we can do some things on board. But this is all in orbit around our planet. So if we go all the way to Mars, then it's not that you just say, okay, now let's bring the crew back. You really have to solve it yourself on the way to Mars and on Mars itself. The whole trip will take a long time. We heard already the effects on the body, the psychological effects. We heard the radiation effects already. But also these other effects will be very, very critical on a long trip to Mars. So the medical aspects are really critical. The humans are more or less a limiting factor. So I will be very pleased if we get better propulsion and people get there faster and get faster back. So, but medical issues are a big issue, and we really have to take care of these astronauts on the way, bringing a whole hospital more or less with them, because you have to do it yourself up there.
Thank you, Andre. And we won't even start talking about the fact that we will have to bring our own resources, water, air, things that we can maybe grow, maybe not. There's so many challenges. But one of the aspects that is not going to go away is the fact that getting ourselves away from the gravity of the Earth into the vacuum of space, into another planet where there's nothing to welcome us, is the fact that we'll have to have safety precautions and there will be risk. Mike, would you like to talk about this to finish up? We've already taken more time, but I thought that perhaps you wanted to know before you pitch how much that pitch will be valuable to us.
Well, this is a very difficult period in human spaceflight. This time of year, on January 27th today in 1967, we lost the 3 members of the Apollo 1 crew on a fire during a test. Tomorrow marks the 40th anniversary of the Challenger explosion, and I think we all know February 1st is a dark day indeed. NASA and even private companies spend a lot of time managing risk, and it is never going to be 100% safe. My personal opinion is it's getting safer all the time. When you think about SpaceX and the fact that they're launching almost every day now, they're making their vehicles out of designs that are done by computers. Much of the manufacturing is done by computers. So whereas in Apollo days and even in the space shuttle, the designs, the manufacturing using exotic materials with almost artisanal workmanship, now it's all being done sort of robotically by machines and processes that are much more automated, much more repeatable. And I think that factor of safety has increased for that very same reason, that the amount of difference between one stage and the next capsule is very, very small, and so therefore much more predictable. I still think that we will never, it is probably never going to be statistically as safe as flying on an airplane, just because of the unbelievably strong physics forces that are involved. But I do think we're getting there, and of course we still need to be very attentive to risk management.
To the Haba, thank you so much.